Today, I'm off on a journey down the River Medway. Of all the rivers I've explored, this is perhaps the most misunderstood. But the Medway is a river that's full of character. Stick around and you'll see what I mean. I start my journey here in this remote-looking part of East Sussex.
It's much more fun with two than one. Pooh sticks, that is. And this bridge in the Ashdown Forest is where it was first played. A.A. Milne lived over there and Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh stood right here. This stream, which starts 5 miles that way, eventually becomes part of the River Medway and makes its way over 70 miles to one of the busiest ports in Britain, Sheerness. Come on, little stream. 2 cheers for Pooh.
The Medway leaves Sussex, runs over the border into Kent, and then heads off in a northeasterly direction. It's a river with a split personality. At first beautiful, the stuff of storybooks. Then gradually it becomes a working river. A river that really earns its keep as it flows through the Medway ports and out to the sea at Sheerness.
25 miles downstream of the source is Tunbridge, a town that's always been plagued by floods, but the real biggie came in 1968. The river rose above the bridge, the streets were awash, the town centre was a lake.
I mean, we're not talking trickle here, we're talking deluge. One resident who remembers the flood and whose husband took these pictures from the bedroom window is Mrs. Fortes. Her ice cream parlour in the high street was submerged for 48 hours.
So, did it all come up this way? Come up
Yes.
here?
Yes, it started from here, but before coming here, it come from the outside, the bank, over bank of the river.
And then worked its way
then,
towards the shop?
Absolutely. And then the water was so high, it come all up through the drains, right? It come higher and higher.
Were you retreating into your kitchen
Higher
then?
and higher, which for the time it was 6 o'clock, the water was up to here.
Where were you?
Upstairs.
You'd have to be, wouldn't you? Were you a bit frightened?
Very frightening, very frightening indeed. So the water come so high, which my mother-in-law was here, which they live a few doors down, and we were all here. And my brother-in-law, you have to pick up my mother-in-law in his arm and carry her down the high street because she couldn't walk in the water.
Well, I was working at the time for a company of funeral directors. We had 2 funerals out that day, which fortunately were over at Tunbridge Wells Crematorium, so that was okay, that was no problem, except that I had to go to the police station. All the phones were out, you see, so I had to go to the police station to use their radio telephone to ring round relatives and things. And people were being brought in handcuffs for looting, picking up television sets out of the floods, totally useless stuff. I couldn't believe it. But the main thing was that we used to keep our spare coffins in a shed behind the Old Angel Hotel. And when the amphibious vehicles came through the town, they created such a wash, because they were going too fast really, they created such a wash that it broke all the shop windows. And the dummies washed out of Frankie's shop window.
Taylor's dummies.
Taylor's dummies, and our coffins, spare coffins, washed out of the angel sheds, and people drew their own conclusion.
But flooding in Tunbridge is a thing of the past since they built the Lye Barrier about 1.5 miles upriver. Now, in times of heavy rainfall, the National Rivers Authority keep a constant eye on the river and regulate its level. If there's too much water, the gates come down and the water's diverted to form a temporary lake at Penshurst Place Estate. 400 acres of farmland becomes the biggest emergency flood reservoir in the country. It's been used 6 times already this year. So the Viscount Delisle of Penshurst Place has saved the people of Tunbridge from another disaster. Time to get back to the river. And time to get back to school by the looks of things, with a bunch of school kids on a watery adventure, travelling downriver from Tunbridge into the surrounding countryside. These trips are run by ex-Londoners Phil and Chris Hibbs, who gave up city life and now run the local boatyard. They say it's the oldest one on the Medway.
So how did you get started in this business?
What happened is I met a man with an insurance man, wasn't it? And I just said to him, what do you do at the weekend? And he said to me, oh, well, I've got a narrowboat. And I said, oh, I'd always like to go on one of those, because I've always talked about them, haven't we?
Yeah.
And he said, why don't you come for a ride one Sunday? So, of course, we did. And then he said, oh, I'm thinking of selling it. So what did we do? We went and bought it. And then that was it, got the boating bug.
Yeah. How do you earn a living? What do you do?
Well, I've done quite a bit of work on boats, converting lifeboats and things like that.
How do you learn how to paint narrowboats?
Just buy books and just ask at other boat yards. Obviously, once you're a boater, you get to know the whole community on the river.
Yeah.
And if you don't know nothing, you phone up the next boat yard and you know them all by name in the end, and they tell you, don't they?
Yeah, we've learned quite a bit in the last couple of years, just through other boat yards and things like that.
So had you any boating experience at all?
No.
No, we hadn't.
I didn't even know what way to push a lock gate. When we first went through a lock, I was like that, wasn't it? Pushing the lock gates the wrong way, but you soon get the hang of it.
So what's the magic of it then? Why do you like life on the river?
It's peaceful.
It just grabs a hold of you. I mean, there's nature all around you, isn't there?
There's no hassle.
When you get up in the morning, the birds are twittering and just look out the river.
Well, look at today.
And there it is.
You won't go back to Hackney?
No, never. If I could stay down the river permanently on my own, I would do it.
Well, I can see the attraction. It's another world on the water.
Don't bother, Stuart, you'll never catch it. Don't worry in the water. I don't know what the point of me going fishing when I don't even like fish and I don't like eating it. I like fish, I like cod.
Do you want to feed her one?
Can I feed this horsey one?
Right, be careful because she bites, because she's a greedy little pig.
No.
See, there she comes. Let me feed her because of them. Oh, look. Hello. Right, if you feed her, right, because you might get your hands. Hold your hands flat. That's it. Hold your
Lose your hand here.
flat. You have to put your hand flat like that. Where's the big teeth bit?
There you go.
She prefers stinging.
Have you ever seen a horse this close to before?
That's it.
Don't waste any time here.
Don't eat your what?
Lost my finger.
Look.
There you go.
Mind your fingers, that's it.
Good diet for
Go
horses,
on.
this.
That little baby's foal. She won't come near you though, or he.
Don't think it's a she.
That's its call.
Oh, is that what it is? I was never quite sure.
That's he, that's he.
Time for a nature lesson. About 12 miles further downriver, the Medway flows through the county town of Maidstone, where the locals enjoy a spot of waterside activity. Well, it's the weather for it really, isn't it? Further on still, about a couple of miles, the Medway runs through Allington Lock. It's tidal now, so the gulls haven't had far to come. Then on through Aylesford, one of the prettiest villages around. It's hard to believe that not far from that chocolate box scene is Aylesford Paper Mill, the biggest recycling plant for newsprint in Europe. 1 minute I'm surrounded by water, the next I'm drowning in a sea of old papers.
I always knew that one day I'd be yesterday's news. If this is a paper mill, as it is, on the River Medway, why are we standing in the middle of a load of old newspaper? I thought you had the new stuff here.
We make our newsprint here for the UK market from 100% old newspapers and magazines. We have done so for the last 13 years.
So what do you do with it?
Well, we take it, we repulp it, That means we mix it up with water, we put in detergents, we clean out all of the ink, put it into condition, and we put it on a paper machine.
And all the water presumably comes from the Medway.
A lot of the water comes from the Medway, and a lot comes from boreholes all around the district.
So you can't make paper without water.
You cannot make paper without water. And we need millions of gallons of water per day.
Now, there's a huge new plant over here. What's happening here?
This is a construction of the biggest paper machine in Europe. It'll be the only one dedicated to 100% recycled fibre. We will need about 500,000 tonnes a year of all newspapers and magazines, and we're going to be asking the population throughout the south of England to put their old newspapers and magazines in bins so that we can reprocess it, stop it going into landfill, and turn it into good product.
Now, the one big question is, you're taking all that water out of the Medway, you're washing all this filthy newspaper in it, and you're putting it back in the Medway. How clean is it when it goes back?
It's much cleaner than we take it out. We are currently spending £13 million to further clean up the material, the water from the Medway, before we put it back in.
So you're cleaning the river, really, rather than mucking it?
We are cleaning the river, very substantially.
7 miles downriver from Aylesford, I've travelled through the Kent countryside towards one of the Medway ports made famous by Charles Dickens, Rochester. Well, I said this was a working river, so let's get down to some work. Local fisherman Shane and his uncle Horace are out for an afternoon's fishing in the shadow of the M2. A lovely spot.
So how long have you been fishing?
About 16, 17 years.
And is it a family occupation?
It seems to be, not necessarily so, but it does seem to be. But
so is there a great family tradition in your family of fishing?
My uncle, I was apprenticed to him, and his son is apprenticed to him as well. But we've just done it like for as long as I can remember, you know.
So what are we likely to catch today?
Well, eels, mate, that's what we're after, eels. That's the mainstay of it. But anything else would be a bycatch. We get occasionally get a bass, or occasionally get a mullet, a few soles, flounders.
Yeah. Up on the ROFF, Rochester?
It's Rochester upon Medway.
Yeah.
Oyster and floating fishery.
Do you get oysters then?
Not anymore, no.
It used to.
It used to, yeah, but before the Second World War they used to get them.
How many of you are there?
About 35 all told.
And is it difficult to join?
Not really. You've got to serve a 7-year apprenticeship, which you take out between the ages of 14 and 18, and that's to a current freeman. And then once you've served your 7 years, then you go before the jury, and if they deem that you've done enough, then they pass you out, and then you're sworn out before the mayor.
So only the so-called freemen are allowed to fish the river?
Within our boundaries, yeah.
Sounds awfully grand, doesn't it?
I feel quite privileged to be a freeman, yeah.
It's nice, it's a nice fish.
Yeah.
You look on sideways.
A couple of eels there, big enough.
Never mind the size, look at the width.
That's it.
Oh, heck, look at me. I feel like the man on the sardine tin. Ring by ring, is it? There's a lot of litter in here. Hey, I can see why you've got such big biceps now. Yeah. I can't see, there's nothing in it, I don't know what the weight is.
We'll teach you how to make fishing nets later on.
I don't know what's on there's no fish in here and it weighs half a ton.
You've got the anchor there as well. But don't worry, it's got to come out.
Crikey. Oh, it's holiday in Ernia Bay for me.
I'll give you a pull with it.
Yeah, give us a hand, will you, Shane?
Hey, look, you caught a massive one, look.
Well, you see, it's skill. You've been doing it as long as I had, you'd be all right. No wonder it's blooming heavy.
That's it. Just chuck that down there and you'll have a rest. That's only a small anchor.
Oh, yes.
It's all right for them laughing. Why didn't they tell me there was going to be an anchor on the end of it?
Hey, next time I have a sardine, I'll think about you.
Right. Ellie, you must be lucky, look.
Oh, well, you see, I mean, I have this reputation, you know.
Yeah, you got the touch, yeah, there's another
Get me,
nice
I'll
summer.
tell you what, though, I must be the only fisherman who's ever fished down here, look, and caught it ready in a container. Madam, our flounders come to you ready bottled. Look at that. God, blimey, all that pulling just for one in a jam here.
Now, this is more my style of boating, and after my strenuous efforts helping Shane and his uncle, they invited me to join them for a relaxing day out to recover.
And what's all this ceremony I've heard all about called the beating of the bounds?
Well, that's where we go with the mare, and it's actually marking out our fishing boundaries upriver and then downriver.
And how do you know what your boundaries are?
Well, they are marked. There's Hawkwood Stone upriver, and you go downriver as far as Garrison Point at Sheerness.
Every year, Shane and his fellow freedmen attend this ancient ceremony. It dates back to the 18th century, but today it's an event that attracts hundreds of boaters for just a pleasant day out on the river. The boundaries are marked by a cannon blast. Gosh, can't wait. Is that it?
It's quite a good turnout today, Horace, isn't it?
It is.
I think there's more boats come down this year than I've seen for a while.
I had time to look behind.
Yeah.
It's a lovely sight.
Shame they're not all fishing boats.
So who are all the other people at this junket?
Mainly people from, you've got yachts or motor cruisers and anyone who really cares to join in, you know, from different cruising clubs.
So it's turned into a bit of a beano then, is it?
Yeah. I think it's just a good time to be had by all. It's just, you know, but it throws back to the old days when it was marking out the fishing boundaries. That's, you know, it gets hijacked along the way a little bit.
Do you mind that?
Not really. It's nice to see everyone enjoying themselves, really.
A few miles downriver at Gillingham is where the action is. This is where the cool dudes in the flash suits hang out. The masters of jet ski. You must have to be a bit nutty to do this, you know. What's the appeal of it, Martin?
It's great. You get different skis, you get the stand-ups, you get the sit-downs. It's the waves you go for, that's purely it.
But I mean, what a day to do it today.
It's the best day you could get. You've got waves there, you can surf off the top. It's absolutely brilliant.
What sort of people do it?
Lunatics, I would say.
How much does one of these things cost?
They vary. The stand-ups will start from £4,000 to the sit-downs up to £7,500 ones.
And is it easy to learn?
No, it's not. It's very hard.
You don't reckon I'll be able to keep up on one of these then in this weather?
On the sit-down, yes. On the stand-up, I doubt you won't even get on your knees, no.
It's an irresistible challenge, isn't it, really? Well, I've got this little bit of plastic in my hand. What does this mean?
That's it. That is the lifesaver. As you fall off the skis, the ski will then cut out and you will bob up and down in the water.
I think I'm going to need this.
Yes,
Shall we have a
you
go,
will
then?
today, yes.
I may be gone some time.
It's cold.
It's cold. Ow! Why can't I just go one of those floating gin palaces?
All right, so I'm a bit slow and sedate, but I'm just getting me confidence up. See?
What a way to spend an afternoon!
You see, I could very easily have been the next James Bond.
Piece of cake!
It's only a few miles now to Sheerness, and no, I didn't go there by jet ski. Well, there are limits. This is where the Medway finally ends its long and varied journey, and it joins the sea near the Thames estuary. With its deep tidal waters, Sheerness has become one of the busiest ports in the country, and it's a hive of activity. It brings in cargo and customers from all over the world. It's hard to believe that this river began its journey at Pooh Bridge. Now, Not wanting to miss out on any of the action, I've got myself on board the tugboat, the Lady Brenda. It's amazing to think that this little tug will be acting as guide to a ship that's about 20 times its size. For the last quarter of a century, Ron Kite has been working as a tugmaster in these docks.
So there's the vessel coming towards me. I'm just manoeuvring now.
Oh, so you're backing up away from him then? To,
Yeah.
what, to...
I'm coming back to get right underneath the bow.
Yeah.
At the moment, don't seem to be no crew up on there. See, if you all attention, pilot.
That's what, keep it coming like this, if that's okay with you. The pilot goes to work not before 10 o'clock.
Yes, no problem.
This is a bit frightening, this, Ron, because this thing is heading straight for us and we're just gently backing away in front of it.
That's right.
I've never been this close to the sharp end of a ship when it's been coming towards
Well,
me.
you can go closer still in a minute. The second mate's gone down there now to take the line. He's got his, always make sure you get a life-saving jacket and a hat on. I don't think you get much closer than this without hitting it. It's part cargo by the looks of it.
Yeah.
It's quite empty. But the car boats, when you pick up a car boat, you're looking right up here at them. Yeah, absolutely much
Side of
bigger.
the skyscraper.
Oh yeah. Tinnicker, the Lady Brenda's all fast forward.
Brenda, all fast forward, thank you much.
Now what I should do is just, the rope is laying slack there at the moment, I should just go back a little bit, just enough so that I know there's enough to work.
You've got another one behind as well. Another tug behind it.
Yes, that's the Lady Morag, both set colours, Japanese. And
So do you work in tandem, you two, then, really?
yes, obviously, yeah. We all work as a team.
This is a little unnerving. We're actually coming all the way into the port backwards. Then we've got to park the thing sideways. And I thought the Navy Lark was a joke.
Do you know the Medway's moods and what it does at different times of the year? And, and you know it without actually knowing you know it because you're so used to it?
Yes, I'm so used to it now, I've been here so long. See the swing it's got on it?
Yeah, good.
I've got to stop that swing now.
What by yanking him the other way?
Brenda, if you can just check the bow, please.
Roger, Brenda, check the bow.
You've had a bump?
I've had my ups and downs.
It's a lot of boat to push, that, isn't it?
Brenda, check.
So the chaps on the quay are waiting to unload it sort of instantly, then?
Oh yes, yes.
They don't hang around.
One side out, one side forward.
Brenda, stop.
And this is what's come off the Tinnicker, mandarins from Argentina. I've been told by customs I can sample the product just to see it's in perfectly good condition. Nice and chilly. Woo! They don't come any fresher than that. What I'm going to do now is find my poo stick.
That was the last in the current series of Spirit of the South. After the break, more holiday ideas in Wish You Were Here. This week, Judith Chalmers is in Blackpool, Britt Eklund in Kenya, and John Carter visits Lisbon.